was years ago. When I was about 17, one had gotten home from school and wasn't feeling well, so I spent the rest of the day just laying on the couch. By about 8 p.m., I was feeling even worse and decided I should just try to sleep whatever it is off, so go to my room and get in bed and pass out pretty quickly. I don't know how long I was asleep, but I suddenly woke up in my pitch black bedroom and all I could think was, I'm going to die right now. My body was so weak, the room was spinning, and my body felt like it was on fire. I look over to the edge of my bed, and sitting on the edge is my grandmother, who died just a few months ago. She pats my arm and says, "It's going to be okay. Just call for your dad. Try it. Call for your dad." So I started calling for him, and it felt like an eternity, but he finally burst through my door and asked what's wrong. I look over and my grandmother is gone. After that, he gets me up and takes me to the ER where I have a fever of 106F, which explains a lot. I had to get a ton of fluids and a shot in my hip, but I eventually felt okay-ish. Her being there felt so real. It was so weird. I know logically she wasn't, but it felt so real. That sort of messed with me a little. I loved her dearly, and her death was very sudden. We kept her ashes in a nice urn in the house under a painting she had done herself. When I got home and passed by, I said thanks to her. I know it was the fever melting my brain and maybe some sleep paralysis, but it still made me question the afterlife and those sorts of things. Liv related this before, but I'll repeat it again. I can think of a few things that happened in my first year of college. I used to live in an apartment kind of place on campus with 3 other people. We all had our separate bedrooms, but shared a living space. It was on the 7th floor to give a better idea. Once, I woke up at around 2 a.m. to find that my phone was automatically playing a song. I closed the app, but it happened 3 times again. I would have put this down to my phone being weird, but then one of my roommates told me the exact same thing happened to her as well. This wasn't all. A few days later, I woke up to a beeping sound coming from my phone, and when I checked, it was apparently a sound recording. The duration showed as 0.00, though, which meant that it shouldn't technically play at all. I deleted it immediately. Another time, my roommate and I were watching a movie and had stayed up till 3. It ended and she went to sleep. After a few minutes, she burst into my room and asked me what I was doing. I was confused because I was just lying in bed, reading. She said that she heard very weird noises from the window, which she assumed I was making to scare her or something. I went to her room and it sounded like heavy breathing / sighing. I told her it is just the wind. We opened the window and saw that the trees, etc., were completely still. I don't have the same phone, room, or roommates anymore, even though I still stay on campus. Almost got kidnapped, maybe. I hailed a Lyft because I was too drunk to drive. The car pulled up, I got in and was like, "Take me to 123 Home Street." The phone rings. I answer and hear, "I'm your Lyft driver. I just watched you get into a car and that is not your Lyft. You need to get out right now. Neat." "Hey bud, I'm getting a friend to pick me up. Thanks anyway." Hopped out at the red light we were stopped at. The driver and I talked about how one of the reasons we didn't have a Lyft in my city for a while was because girls were getting kidnapped and forced into sex trafficking. So now, since these guys can't use rideshare apps, they're preying on drunk girls that they see on the street hailing a ride and just pick them up. Thankfully, I got into the front seat because the back might have had a child lock on. Asked the driver to make sure I got into my house before driving away since Old Creeper had my address. Went to pick up my car the next day, and not only did I not get sex trafficked, I didn't get a parking ticket either, so that was cool. Definitely a lot more cautious now. It's really weird thinking that might have been a life-destroying event. I was camping with my family on summer break when I was a kid. The first night we heard some rustling off in the distance, so my dad went to go check it out. He came back and said he found an old, dirty sleeping bag with a bunch of trash around it. I took this as him implying that it could have been a camp that got ransacked by a curious bear. We'd hear movement in the tree line for the next couple nights, and it scared the shit out of me. The last night we were there, I had a nightmare that a bear had made it into my tent and was licking and biting my feet. I woke up from the dream and shined my watchlight into the dirt-covered, wrinkly face of an elderly man. He was sucking on my toes, and he immediately exited my tent and took off right after we made eye contact. I still don't know if it was my imagination or not all these years later. I never told anyone, and I have nightmares about it often. When I was a kid between 8 or 9, I used to wake up every night to headlights coming through my bedroom window. The lights would then stop and turn off, not as if a car drove by, but as if they were turned off. Then the long shadows of a man, as if looking through my window, would pass by and stop in front of my window. I would lay really still and pretend nothing happened every night for months. Eventually, I convinced myself it was imagination. Now that I think back, it stopped when my stepdad moved in. My mom was single. But I was convinced it wasn't real. Across the street lived my best friend, whose mom was also single, and she refused to sleep in her bedroom. Her window faced my window. She told me years later it was because every night a man would park in her side yard and walk over to my yard. The long shadows were from the light in her yard. She eventually decided it was my dad checking on us and never told me until I was a teenager. It wasn't my dad, I asked him. So I thought I was crazy and hallucinating for years. And perhaps I wasn't, or two kids were odd dreams at the same time every night. I was playing with our dog in the living room. At the time, I was around 9 years old. We were doing our usual, only play like this when mom isn't home, else she'll tell us to stop type of playing. So basically playing fetch in the living room. At one point, I threw the toy, which caused it to ricochet out of the living room into the kitchen. Franz, our dog's name, chased it and disappeared around the corner to get it. At that exact moment, the front door opened and Mom walked in with Franz on a leash after a 2-hour walk over the beach and dunes. I tried to explain but couldn't. I played with him for at least 15 minutes apparently, my imagination, but I just don't believe that. I dreamed it was dark, raining, and I was in the woods walking towards a campfire. There were 3 men around me whom I had never seen before. One was wearing a shirt and pants with huge white and black horizontal stripes on it, such as a prisoner might wear. I could not figure out why I was not scared in my dream. Fast forward 10 months later, we're hunting and camping. A friend brings along 3 of his friends that we had never met before. I have to go to the bathroom, buried a 50-gallon drum, and put a seat on it. And my husband walks with me since it's dark. We start back, and it starts to rain. We get to the clearing, and there are his 3 friends around the fire, one wearing the outfit described above. I wasn't afraid in my dream because my husband was behind me and I just couldn't see him. No one believes me. So, I'm a diehard atheist, but I can't fully explain this one. I have a big family, like really big. Last count, I had around 20 cousins. One day, we were all hanging out on the family farm and decided to spend the night. We just had girls in one room and boys in another, and everything was going fine. It was around 4 a.m. when I woke up to one of my cousins standing by the door. The hallway light was on and shining on my face so I could only see his outline. But I knew it was Josh. Asked him what he was doing and if he needed something, but he didn't move, and my eyes were starting to adjust. I could see more details, but I couldn't see his face. I was really sleepy and confused. When the hallway light, Josh's shape, everything disappeared. It was just darkness. And an open door. I knew I was awake because I was sitting down. I decided to get one of my roommate's cousins up and go check on the boys. Josh had an allergy to something. He didn't want to bother anyone, so he took a Benadryl and went to bed. When I checked on him, he wasn't breathing. We got my uncle up, he gave Josh some heavy-duty medication, and we took him to a hospital. Everyone was fine. Josh told me he knew I was insomniac, and while he was suffocating, unable to make a noise, he kept praying I couldn't sleep and decided to check on him.